Okay, everything is good. First question. Then, can you hear me clearly? I don't want you to miss anything important of this event. Please type down in your chat. Can you hear me clearly? Okay, just confirm to the chat. Nice. Thank you very much. Good. Let's see. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so now. All right, so hello again and welcome to today's event where we'll discuss about the questions from very recent exam in May. Today is just the first day of June, so very recent one, and it is kind of like our habit to just review the questions from the most recent exams from CIPS. And with my exam, then I see that the questions in L4M8 tend to be pretty predictable, okay, and not really quite unfamiliar to a lot of students. However, then we still have some challenges within the exam, and let's see what they are. Okay, so here I summarize the questions from L4M8, my exam. First question, just like March, about the procurement cycle. And with this exam, then they ask specific stages within cycle. I think that this one is not a really challenge, a real challenge to students, to CIPS students. Second question about particular one, but it's a bit different. And actually, then the CIPS asked this. They really asked a similar question before, but this time then they just add more details. First thing, the scenario in this question is pretty long. Second, then they're pretty specific with a type of tendering, with a tendering process where you need to select the best supplier for a website building project, and they also provide you with the features and and some characteristics of the bids and tenders. So your job here is to design the criteria and then map and then give the and then give the score to each bidder, okay, and decide which one would prevail. I personally, I think that this question is pretty challenging. It is pretty challenging, and it requires the student to have real world experience to answer this question. The third question, although it was about the whole life cost, but they asked it in a bit different manner. First part, then they asked about the difference between purchase price and the whole life cost. Then second part, then they asked in a very traditional way about the elements of the whole life cost. The fourth question, the final one, about ethical procurement. So this time, then they ask about the potential sustainable KPI or potential KPIs for sustainability. This is also pretty predictable since they asked this question once before. Okay, so just a repeat potential question from the common topics that we have known. The purpose of today's event is to help you to have an overlook about the questions and how you can plan the answer for these questions. So I don't keep you wait any longer, just go into the details. With the first question about the procurement cycle stages, then it is actually very standard one, and I think that most students would deliver a pretty good answer. But in my opinion, then to maximize your score in this question, then you may need to follow in some manner. And especially this question focuses on some specific stage, on some specific stages. So we may need to like give more example about those stages. Okay, generally, then I often suggest students to follow a structure when you come to describe the stage. Okay, so according to my structure, then first you need to describe about the purpose of that stage, and then second, then the specific action that procurement should do in that stage, and third, if you have time, then explain about benefits. But normally, then we normally have time only to do the first two parts about the purpose and the actions. However, then if you are quick typer, then you can also include the benefits of the stages. This time, then CIPS asked about they asked about 5 stages. Okay, stage number 7, issue tender documents. Number 8, bid and tender evaluation and validation. Number 9, contract award and implementation. Number 11, contract performance and improvement. And number 12, supplier relationship management. So to illustrate my point, then I decided that I need to explain it in a bit details. Of course, this one is the slide is too small for me to describe the stage info, and sometimes I need to use the abbreviation, or I need to cut out the sentence to make it shorter and fit into a slide like this. So I just give you some suggestions. Okay, so with every stage, then I follow my own structure with the purpose, with the actions, and with the benefit. But since again the slide is too small, so I also cut off the benefits here. Anyway, then these 2 parts are enough for you. Okay, so with stage 7 about issuing tender document. Then the purpose here is to inform the suppliers about the opportunity and what I should do to if they want to win the contract. And also, this is an important stage where it may secure competition, especially the fairness in competition. With stage 7, then the action here are not very complex. They're not complex. Instead, then you just need to follow some due diligence and good practice to ensure the fairness and competition. Then you need to send the same set of documents at the same time to every supplier, so that every of them receive the same thing. They receive the same thing, and they have enough time to prepare their answer. Okay, so that ensures the fairness and competition. With stage 8 about bid and tender evaluation and validation. Then the purpose here is to find out the best value for money tender or bid. Okay, so we may do that by some ways. Normally, then we have two ways of selecting the bid or tender, the winning bid or tender. But before that, then you also need to follow the due diligence. Okay, so the due diligence here is to just to open the tenders only after the deadline in your tender document. And second, any procurement professional should avoid disclosing the information from one supplier to another one. Okay, that may violate the confidentiality of the supplier, and also it may raise the ethical concern about that. So after you follow that due diligence, then we may follow the operational effectiveness to select the best supplier here. The thing is, we often list out, we often prepare the criteria from the preparation of tender document. Here, that at this stage, then you just need to follow that instruction and criteria. Okay. So we may select the tenders based on the price only, or based on multiple criteria and a weighted score system Okay, so there are the two ways that you may select the bid of tender. With stage number 9, it is about contract award and implementation. So here, then we need to get the supplier ready for the contract and performance. And also, it may offer some extra opportunity to get more value. With this stage, then still we have some due diligence, like we need to inform the winner first, and if the winner rejects to enter the contract because of some reason, then we may switch to the second place and third place. By that way, then you may avoid to need to run the tender again. And second, then at this stage, then we may have the post-tender negotiation, and that's an opportunity for procurement to extract more value. Especially, we need to identify the potential risks the potential risk at this stage, and also include that in the contract more specifically. And also, the supplier also has the opportunity to discuss the contract, and if they feel any dissatisfaction with the buyer, then they can suggest and also amend the contract accordingly. Furthermore, at this stage, then we have the contract implementation. It means that we need to mobilize for the performance of contract. Something like we need to inform them, we need to transfer information, and so on. Prepare the data, prepare the site, and so on. With stage number 11 about contract performance management. Then the purpose here is about to ensure the contract performance and ensure that the supplier deliver the best value when they have entered into the contract. About the action, then we may use some methods like using the KPIs, SLAs, periodic review, continuous improvement, and so on. Furthermore, with the KPI SLA and with the contract, then if the supplier doesn't conform with the contract, then we may apply some remedy measures like using service credit or liquidated damages. And if they can't really perform the contract, then we may consider termination. Anyway, then this stage is very important one, since it identifies the good performance supplier and the bad performer, so that we may categorize them, we may develop them later or develop different type of relationship with them later. Okay, so that is my opinion about the procurement cycle stages. You may have other way to approach this question, and I totally respect that. Okay, it's fine. Anyway, then I believe that the assessor may want to see a well-structured answer, and also I also believe that students here, every one of you, know how to answer the question from procurement cycle. Okay, let me see the chat. All right. Okay, so at the moment, then we have 43 participants. Okay, so let's move on with the second question. The second question is, as I said, a bit more challenging. Here, then we have very specific scenario about a project, web building project. And we also have the information on the potential performance of suppliers. The question is, how do we decide the right one? How do we decide the right one? So this is a very comprehensive question where you need to first identify the criteria and second, assess the supplier. Okay, so how can we do that? How can we do that? Normally, if you are not really experienced in a procurement job, then it may be a bit confused. But if you are more experienced, you have more opportunities to work on many different projects, then this question is not really a challenge. Anyway, then here today, then I want to introduce a way that you may use, some method that you may use when you see kind of like pretty unfamiliar question. First, with the question, then the question is how we can decide the right step. You may use a method known as the critical success factor, or CSF. I may write on my slide. This method is known as the critical success factor, where you need to decide which factors would be important in the success, in the outcome of this project. Okay, so this is about the web building project, and to decide the successfulness, to decide the success of a website, then we may rely on some information like the design, the reliability of the server, okay, the lead time, the time from the start of the project until the website is launched. No customer wants the website to be delayed or to be like disrupted. Okay, that could be very annoying. So based on that critical success factors, then you may propose some criteria for the selection of supplier. In my opinion, then here are my 5 criteria. First, about the design, whether the supplier provide good design and also it fits into the buyer's requirement. Okay, for example, then buyer may, in a scenario, the buyer may want to have the website that support e-commerce or a website that supports newspaper, a media company. Then the requirement would be very different. For e-commerce, then it should facilitate the payment and the easy to search for easiness to search for the product. For a media company, then the website should be full information. It should be insightful. It should be very informative. Okay, so the design would be pretty important here. Okay, but it needs to fit into the buyer's requirements. And depending on the scenario, then you may decide that which supplier may provide the best web design. Second, then since we are procurement, so we care a lot about the price, even if it is not essential in this question, but it is still an important matter. With the price, then this is a project. You hire someone to do something for it. It's a project and it may last some time. So we may need to look at the total cost of the project and decide which supplier may offer the best one. Third, then this is my own opinion. You may rely your criteria on the website reliability. So this reliability, I mean that it may be about like the traffic that the website may handle. Like for the buyer's requirement, then the website should handle like 100,000 access per month. That would be a lot, and that may crumble any small scale server. So we need to have some kind of reliability. And second, sorry, I need to mute you. And second, with reliability, I also mean that whether the server here, whether the hosting here can maintain a high level of uptime, like 100% or 99%. You know that as with the CIPS scenario last year, they have a problem with building their website, and it was very slow, and even now then it is still a bit slow. So I may want to have a website that is more reliable, faster to load, and so on. Okay, so this is my opinion on the criteria. Next, then I may decide to use the time to finish criteria. Here, then the suppliers haven't done any work for the buyer, but they may suggest their time to finish in the tender document, and that could be a criterion for assessment. And finally, then I'd love to see the supplier as someone helpful and enthusiastic. So I decide to use the services criterion, and it can be measured by the responsiveness to the buyer's inquiry. Again, the contract has not been performed. So for this one, then we also rely on the suggestion on the quotation by the supplier. Okay, but for this one, criteria is just the first part of this question, and the more important part would be about like how you can decide the supplier in this case. In this case, then we may need first you may need to list the criteria, and then second then you need to assess the supplier's submission and the criteria. So it's simply like giving the score to the supplier, and then we may use a weighted score system to decide the winner. And this question provide a lot of they offer a lot of creativity from students. You may choose any criteria. You may give your own idea of the weight and the score for each supplier. So in that way, then it is pretty. It provides some have like space for creativity of the student. The third question, pretty conventional, pretty traditional about the whole life cycle costing or the whole life cost or WLC. For this question, then the first part is about comparing the purchase price and the whole life cost. So I believe that you answered that question pretty well. The answer includes something like the purchase price is just one off, and it just happened when we purchase the item, when we buy the item. But the whole life cycle costing is different. It calculate it may have presentation across the useful life of the assets. And second, it may provide a more holistic view on the procurement of an asset. And the second part of this question, return to the traditional way. They ask about the different elements of the whole life cost. So on my screen, then I'm showing my own diagram of the whole life cycle costing. I divide them into 4 big pillars, and under each pillars, then I present the different costs. The first part is the total cost acquisition. Then we may incur the cost on the research of the product, the sourcing costs, the ordering costs, purchasing costs, and so on. The second part is about operation. Then we can measure it by using the by calculating the cost of the consumables or the wages for the operators. Next, then you may mention about the maintenance. With maintenance, then it could be about corrective maintenance. It could be about preventive maintenance. And with maintenance, then not just about the cost of calling someone so that you can sit back and and watch their job here. Then you may need to make a plan for the assets in the long run, like perhaps like planning for the downtime and so on. With maintenance, then the cost does not only include the maintenance cost, but it also includes the downtime cost and other costs as well. And finally, the final part is the end-of-life cost, where we consider the cost of decommissioning, disposal, or potentially the resale of the assets. By the way, we divide the holding cost into different pillars, then you may generate more idea and get better score in the exam. Finally, then we need to suggest different KPIs for sustainable procurement. With the term sustainability, then normally we can use social and environmental KPIs for this one. With social, then the KPIs may focus on the employment, especially the employment disadvantaged people. KPI could be about the human rights or worker rights or to support the local community. So with that in mind, then I easily generate my answer for this question. I may use some potential KPI like the percentage employment of women or the people with disabilities, or the percentage of workers equipped with the precision gears, or about the total hours that an employee typically work. They are all social KPIs, okay, where we measure the added value on the society. And beside that, then we may have to write the environmental KPI as well. For this one, then I have a lot of idea. Like the company may measure the energy and water consumption, or they can measure the emission, the quantity of absorbed carbon dioxide, and so on. So with the question on the KPI, then besides just describing the name of that KPI, then you also need to explain about why do we need to measure these things. And how we can have like measure and collect data about these criteria. Okay, so on my slide, then I just suggest some KPI, and I hope that you may use that in your future exam. Okay, so that's all for the 4 questions, and it's time for Q&A, where you may raise the question for us. I see that recent May exam is not very challenging for the students, except the question number 2, where it requires you to use your real world, no, not required, but it requires you to select the right supplier. And with any professional, with any students, with more experience, then that question could be quite easy. But for new buyer, then the question tend to be a bit more difficult. Okay, so it's time for you to write the question. I received a question from Naurira. Naurira. She asked if it's not a case study, then can one use examples or one does not get a mark? So with a scenario, then normally you need to include some example. And without example, without linkage to the scenario, then still you get some mark, but not very high. Probably below 50, that kind of thing. And that could have the implication on your chance of passing the exam. And in case that you need to write about some example, then you may use your own experience at your current at your current employer. Okay, I received another request from Lynette. It's possible if you can share the exact question too, written. I'm struggling to get the question. So I don't have the exact question as well. No one has. And the thing is, I just give my suggestion based on the memory of the student, and they say that this question we have kept like a scenario about building a website, about creating a website. And they also give you 3 suppliers with different characteristics. The question is, you must demonstrate yourself to the assessor by suggesting the best supplier based on a systematic way, like using multiple criteria and a weighted score system to measure the potential performance of the supplier. So with this kind of question, then I suggest that I may use these 5 criteria, and depending on the specific situation, then I may decide different way for them. Okay, any other question? I received a question from Drew KM. I understand the topic very well. My biggest challenge is the time. How to put priority in exam in terms of answering tips and tricks. Okay, I repeat this quite many times in previous event. And okay, but if you are new to this kind of exam, then I may need to share it again. Please wait and looking back for that. Okay. All right, so I have a suggestion for you. First thing, we have 180 minutes for the whole exam, 4 questions. So approximately you have 45 minutes per question, and you need to allocate this time equally across your exam questions. Okay, 45 minutes for question. That's all. The next thing, after you have allocated your time, then you may start to answer the question. But before you put down your idea, then you may need to write, you may need to understand the question. And then you may need to outline your question based on some method like assembly 1H or using the fishbone diagram or Ishikawa diagram. For example, then here I have a question about conflict interest and the impact on procurement activity. To answer this question, you may use the assembly 1H method, in which then you use different question word question word to suggest about what you need to write. Okay, here. Then first, then we may mention about what. What does it mean by conflict interest? Second, then when. When does it become a matter? Where? Where should it be applied? Which? Okay, so which kinds of conflict interest are there? So you see that with similar knowledge, then you just need to list all the question word, and then you may develop the questions in details. By the way, then you may be you may have more ideas on how you may write the answer. And remember that time is of the asset. You may not write beyond the set time, and since CIPS is using a software to do that, so they just count down from 3 hours and back. So no extra any second for any extra word. So to manage your time closely, then you need to apply just like we do with the exam. Okay, so with the exam, then we divide the time across the question. And with the question, then we allocate the time for each point. Like for this one, then I have like 8 questions, and I have approximately 40 minutes. So I must only spend 5 minutes per bullet point. And beyond that, then you write nothing about that. You need to switch. You need to switch. Okay, by the way, then you don't overuse your time, and you lose the opportunity in other questions. I see the question from Famodu. For the second question, would we answer by consolidating selection criteria for public or private? In the scenario, then we already know whether it is a public or private organization. Okay, but however, then I don't have the specific question. I just give you the suggestion based on some memory from some student, and I don't have, no one has the exact question except CIPS. So here, then my advice is to read the question carefully, especially the scenario, before you put down any word in your answer. Okay, so is there any other question? All right. By the way, then you know that we often do the event for free. But if you want to support us, then we have this way. Okay, you may purchase our practice question, especially with L4M8 from our EDME. And currently, then we are running a special code for you. Okay, by applying this code, then you may get the best current price at the moment. So the code is CIPS June 24. Okay, remember that CIPS June 24 with June. Then it is just it only has 3 letters. Okay, so just type down CIPS June 24 and then you will get best price for our courses and practice tests on Udemy. Okay, so that's all for today's event, and it's not very long. Okay, so next week then we'll cover L4M1 as well, the recent exam. And personally, then I think that sometimes L4M1 is more difficult than L4M8. Okay, so if you have any inquiry, if you have any suggestion for us, then you have our email and WhatsApp number. Okay, so you may take a screenshot, take a shot at my screen here, and contact me later. I will try to answer every request. Famudu, yes, you can get the link to F4M8 on EDME. Okay, you can go to our website and there will be a link to our EDME. Okay, thank you very much, and see you next week on F4M1 and any other module that you want me to explain. Goodbye and see you later.